Howdy, and welcome to the Lost Rider podcast. It's an honor and privilege to address you in the capacity of an interviewer, reporter, and media member. Too many modern media outlets have forgone the integrity and responsibility required of credible information sources. What you will receive here are straightforward discussions with legislators, agency leaders, biologists, engineers, doctors, and countless other experts that have the answers to questions often circulated as kitchen table issues. The title Lost Rider may be thought of literally as well as in the metaphorical sense. While there has been the instance that I was momentarily a little turned around at night in a wilderness area, the idea of being a lost rider in life, well, that fits most folks at some time. These renderings are coming to you in the form of the 25-year-old radio program, The News from the Camp House. It still airs every Saturday morning at 6:30 a.m. Central Time on KULM 98.3 FM out of Columbus, Texas. The original intent was to relate outdoor topics to the general public. Immediately, it was found that all issues are relatable to the outdoors and that people are people. They all play a role and they all have a vested interest. It's this program's desire to answer common questions about how the world works, how it will operate in the future, and what's the holdup. So please listen, enjoy, and never hesitate to contact us with more questions and feedback. Good morning and welcome to this weekend's edition of News from the Camp House, listening post to the Texas Sportsman Association. This is Herman Brune. This weekend's edition is also brought to us by the Shaw's Bend Social Club, country club for folks who don't have a country club. You can also pick these programs up now on thelostriderpodcast.com. If you don't feel like getting up at 6:30 in the morning to listen to the radio show, and or if there's a topic that we've covered that you'd like to go back and rehash and get some facts from, you can always go to thelostriderpodcast.com and look at some of the issues that we've covered, some of the people we've interviewed. Get your information, find out whatever you're trying to find out, whether it's wildlife, water, the environment, whatever in the hell you're trying to find out. You can go over there, and we have, at some point in time, we have interviewed people about it. Now, okay, with all that said, this week I do not have a guest. It's just me, and it always surprises me because it seems like whenever I do this, and it's within a very short period of time, I have how many people tell me, "Oh, we listened to you Saturday morning," and I think, "Damn, I didn't have a guest." I said, "But you listened to me," and they go, "Yeah, man, we really liked it." And I go, "Really?" And I went, "Well, that's thank you," and I will thank everybody for doing that. Been here for 25 years doing this stuff, and I'm laid up right now. I don't care, call it lazy, whatever it is. I'm laid up. I finally got my knee fixed. And I thought I was going to bounce right up and take off once I got this knee job done. And it just didn't work quite as fast. I'm like on day number 9 or so from having it done, 9 or 10. And I've got a cane, I've got a walker, but I just, and the exercises, I think that's where I mess up, because I think I push myself too hard. I think I strain myself or something, and then, boy, I just got to sit down. I've got a series of exercises I'm supposed to do that's pretty Mickey Mouse, and I've already thrown in a few marine type calisthenics into that, and I think I got to watch I don't strain myself just a little bit. But anyhow, that's how come I don't have anybody this week, and I didn't want to replay anything. I didn't want to replay
another show. I just wanted to talk to my listeners and thank everybody who comes on here every Saturday morning. I do have something I want to talk about. And I hope, really hope that my listeners find it a little bit interesting. And that's that I catch myself more and more and more leaving my telephone in the house and staying away from it. I do not care. I have never carried a cell phone around with me everywhere. And more and more and more, I catch myself just leaving it and walking off from it and staying away from it and treating it like it's tied to my desk. Leave it there leave it on the charger, leave it sitting beside the laptop, and just go do my chores, do whatever I got to do, run to town, do what, the biggest problem that I have seen with having a cell phone and doing the daily operations that we do with cell phones, the biggest problem I see is making appointments and not checking your messages, not checking your texts or any of that stuff, and then going to an appointment and finding out that that other person has changed that appointment at the last minute. And they'll say, well, I sent you a voicemail or I sent you a text. And now you came all, if you check your messages, I said, no, I'm pretty big on the idea that if I say I'm going to be somewhere a certain time, certain place, you figure that after I've said it, that's the way it is. It's going to be that way, and that's not going to change. So that's one of the biggest problems I've seen packing a cell phone around in your pocket is that people will change appointments on you. And if you're not constantly checking that thing, you're going to wind up spending a lot of time running around for nothing. And I just miserable hate carrying that cell phone around with me. And I'm just starting to get old enough now that if there's something I just miserable hate to do, I just ain't gonna do it. And it's getting more. I'm getting more and more. Is this when they say someone's set in their ways? And I'm just more and more and more getting that away. That I'm just no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to play that game. I think I pretty well got everybody trained that if I get contracts or anything like that on an email and they want me to sign it and send it back, I say, you know what, you need to bring that over here and we need to sit down and talk about it and make sure it's everything it's supposed to be before I sign it. And I said, we're going to be looking at each other when I sign it. And that's it. I don't do that on an email. And I've noticed that, some of the people I do business with don't have a problem with that. Some of the younger folks think it's strange, but there's no problem here. Some of the older guys, they're right there with you. You go, no, they understand it. There's so much of our business nowadays, so much of our stuff done on electronic mail or text or all that kind of stuff. And I said, if that really worked, Zoom meetings, I hate Zoom meetings more than anything. If that really worked, then there would not need to be all these conservation shows. You got Texas Trophy Hunters has a show in San Antonio. They got one in Houston. They got one in Dallas-Fort Worth. Dallas Safari Club, they have their show right now in Atlanta, Georgia. Safari Club International has their show in Nashville, Tennessee. National Shooting Sports Foundation has their show in Las Vegas. The Wild Sheep Foundation has their show in Reno. You got the NRA show. You've got the ATA show for all the archery people. You got all these shows. And the reason you have these shows is for the opportunity of people doing business face to face. because in the end, that's where you have to do your real business. They try to make it the rest of the year using the phone or email or any of that stuff, and I just don't care for it. I want to see people. I want to talk to people. I want to see them face to face. Now, on the other hand, when you're talking about all these different hunting shows and you make an agreement with an outfitter, and like me working for outfitters for 30 years, from 1 year to the next, we would say, okay, on the 1st of September, we are all going to meet at the East Fork of the Wind River Trailhead, and on September the 1st at noon, everybody be there. And we could say that a year, or, at the end of hunting season, say, okay, next year I'm going to see you here September the 1st at 10 o'clock or noontime or whatever, and we're all going to the mountains. And that was it. You may not see or talk to these guys again until the time you meet everybody at the trailhead again. And again, I think that's testament to just people doing what they say they're going to do. And, we don't have to see each other all the time. We know we're all going to do what we say we're going to do. And that was it. That was it. So, yeah, that's, it's the same thing. I used to go to work for outfitters, and the idea was you worked for the season. You would go to work seasonally. You'd go to work, you'd say, when are we going to start? And they'd say 1st of June. And you knew that you were going to work from the 1st of June until somewhere right at Thanksgiving, when you pulled all the shoes off the horses and mules and turned them out to pasture. That would be like your last chore, was you had, 20 to 40 head of horses and mules that you're going to pull shoes on and take them out to pasture. And I've done that I don't know how many times. And when we got back to the headquarters, I could load my stuff and head south. So I tell you what, let's take a quick break and thank the folks who let us come on here every Saturday morning. We'll be right back.
Thank goodness for all the great sponsors we have here at News from the Camp House. HEB Food Stores. That's Stephen Tice at HEB. He helps me. He helps the community. He's a great man. I'm so thankful HEB loosened him up, lets him go around and sponsor a few things. HEB's got all your food needs. It's the greatest food store we got here in Columbus. Thank goodness for HEB. First State Bank. You go over to the First State Bank, they'll take care of all your loans, all your deposits, your savings, anything you need. Bunch of great hometown people over there. You got Celia Tobias, John Pollock. Everybody over there is looking out for you. Miss Barbara Barta. It's a great bunch of folks at the First State Bank is also sponsoring News from the Camp House. First State Bank takes care of all my business. Baumgart Agency, Susan Baumgart at the Baumgart Agencies, her and Germania. She told me to plug Germania. Germania is an insurance that she likes everybody to know about. The Baumgart Agencies. Miss Susan and I are classmates, being classmates. She got me out of high school, sat right beside her, put us in alphabetical order where I could copy. And Susan Baumgart over at the Baumgart Agency, taking care of all your insurance needs. Lyco Realty, one of the original sponsors of News from the Camp House. Lyco Realty, the oldest real estate company in the county, and for the last 3 years voted the favorite realtor in the county. Lyco Realty, that's Miss Kimberly Johnson. That's Crockett's granddaughter. More kinfolks and classmates and great people from Colorado County. People from Colorado County helping people from Colorado County. That's great. Oh, thank goodness for all these wonderful people come to me want to be sponsors for News from the Camp House. Good morning and welcome to the second half of this week's News from the Camp House. It's Herman Brune. I do not have a guest this week. I'm just kind of rambling on about a few things, talking about how much I hate cell phones and talking about this knee job that I just had.
It's supposed to be a minimally invasive knee job. We're going to see how it works out. I don't completely understand all this stuff. I have reservations. It's supposed to get you up in about half the time. Now, I'm into about day 10, 9 or 10 since having it done. It was done Wednesday a week ago. So when you're listening to this on Saturday, you think, okay, last Wednesday, the Wednesday before that. That's how long it's been. And I'm still kind of down. I've got a walker. I can kind of run with that walker. I've got a cane. I have to be careful when I'm walking around with a cane. I can walk around the house with nothing. But, I'm subject to fall down, which don't bother me, but that bothers a lot of people. And I hadn't done it yet, but I could imagine it might be hard to get back up. So anyhow, I'm kind of motivating around here on a cane and a walker. I thought I'd be going a little quicker than this, but we'll see what happens. We'll see how long this takes. We'll keep track. The other thing, like I said, talking about how I hate cell phones. I spent 30 years going into the wilderness. I'm a wilderness guy. I love packing mules and going to the mountains and doing all that primitive camping, where the most modern thing we ever had was a Coleman lantern. And you cut wood with a crosscut saw, and you pack mules, and everything was done by hand, and it was a wonderful, great way to live. And you stayed busy. You never had to worry about downtime, because there was always something to do. There was always, and you had hunters to take care of. So you're making their life as easy as you possibly know, comfortable and as nice as you can make it in a primitive camp situation. When I started doing this early on, the greatest thing that these guys were getting going on these trips was a disconnect. They would disconnect from their office. They would disconnect from their problems. They would disconnect from the aggravations and annoyances that clutter up their minds and their lives, and they were able to focus. In just a day or two, they knew their biggest thing they had to worry about was staying warm, staying dry, and keeping, being well fed, and then trying to hunt. And they figure out now all of a sudden, I'm not worried about a bunch of technical stuff. I'm just worried about staying warm and dry. And this guide here is helping me do that. And you would break things down to the simplest forms. And after that, then they would start reconnecting with the right things in life. They'd start reconnecting, thinking about families. They could shed a bunch of those little annoyances and grievances that makes life aggravating and making it hard and that get in the way of seeing what's your true priority in life. And they would shed these things and have the opportunity to sit there and realize, how fortunate they are to be where they're at, how fortunate they are that they have this opportunity to cleanse themselves, cleanse their souls a little bit. So that how many of them, I saw it over and over and over again. These guys, by the end of the trip, they were anxious to go home, see their wife, see the children, and reconnect with the real, true priorities in their life. I have a hard time believing nowadays that if they're packing their cell phones in the mountains, and we've got all these solar rechargers and all these different ways to charge things so that those things And if you get up on top of a mountain and get service, I got a hard time believing that they're getting the true experience that the mountains can give them. You know, that they don't really, I mean, they're sharing the experience in a different way, but they never get to really disconnect from a lot of the other problems. I never, ever, you figure 2022 was the last year I went to the mountains. I was 65, and that was the last year I went to the mountains. And I have never packed a cell phone into the mountains. Never done it. And it's never anything I wanted. I was always so glad to have that disconnect time and to be able to just kind of live clean. And it just seemed like a good thing. I saw the good that it did for other people. You know, and I got to be a part of that, and that was great. How many times I would go up, be on a mountain, be on a ridge, be tucked under a tree somewhere, crawl up in a spruce thicket, build a little fire, get out of some rain, get out of some moisture, and sit up looking at a valley beside a little fire. Sit there and toast your hunter sandwich for him. He go in his pocket, pull his old cold wet sandwich out. And I said, wait a minute, let me see that. And I'd cut me a green forked stick and then toast his sandwich for him, and we'd sit up there by a fire, and it really makes it nice. That's a treat. When you're cold and wet and sitting up, way the hell up top of a mountain somewhere, that's a treat to have your sandwich toasted, and you appreciate it, and it's such a clean, fun thing to do. And then to have these guys sit there and start spilling out their stories and telling me about things that, with their wives and kids and their jobs and all these things, some of these problems. And I'd say, well, you're talking about it now, so I think you know how to fix it. And they would. It'd be simple. You go home and talk about it. You go home and fix it. These are things that they were holding inside. And suddenly they were able to realize this was a problem that they needed to go home and fix. And if they could sit up there and talk to me about it, they could go home and talk about it and take care of it. And it was, I saw that so many times. And then there's a lot of times people didn't always have problems. You had a lot of guys that were in good shape, but they come up there and they just loved it, Had one gentleman that really impressed me one time because he was so anxious to go home. He was older than me. He was about 6, 7, 8 years older than me. And he had never been that many days away from his wife. And he was anxious to get home. And I thought that was incredible. I thought that was a great and wonderful thing. And I was impressed. And I said, wow, man, that is really cool. That this guy's got such a great life and has never been this far gone from his wife for this many days. And it's just chomping at the bit. Got to hurry up and get home because that's the kind of life they have. And he's happy that way. And so that was good. It's like I said, there's been a lot of guys like that. A lot of guys who just came up and just had a wonderful time. But there was always lessons to be learned. Always some type of lessons to pick up while you were there. Some type of life's lessons that all of a sudden you were in an environment where you were open and could hear clear enough and think well enough, shed so many of those little grievances that clutter your mind that you could make good decisions, good, clear decisions, and decide on how to do things. And that was always the case with everybody, with me, with the hunters, with everybody. You would always find time that this being up there would clear your mind. You had plenty of time to think out stuff. And you would, and I'm afraid that having that cell phone in your pocket would make that impossible. I just don't believe, looking at how people are stuck on their cell phones, indoctrinated into looking up every little item. And I've had hunters try to tell me which direction to go before, and that's when I quit guiding. They didn't know it, but as soon as they started giving me directions off a cell phone, they were on their own. I right then and there, I look, you're going to go by that thing, you don't need me. And that may not have been the correct way to behave, but that's pretty much the way I did it. If they weren't going to listen to me, because that thing may tell them which direction to go, but at the same time, it didn't tell them which way when the wind would swirl, or what time in the morning the air was going to change, or there's a lot of things that cell phone wasn't going to tell them. So I let them look at it, but yeah, it's a detriment. You're better off to leave it in the truck and go to the mountains and live without it, and just live clear and clean. It's kind of like I've said about my house here. Now, I know I'm shifting gears just a little bit, but I always said if I had a windmill for water and a wood stove in the house, I said, I can go a long ways on just taking care of myself. I can go a real long ways with just a windmill and a wood stove. So, simplify. That's what I always say. I'm thinking of all these things while I'm sitting here with my knee up in the air. And sorry you didn't have a guest this morning, but I hope you don't mind listening to me prattle just a little bit about leaving the cell phones in the truck when you go to the mountains. When you go to the deer stand, leave them in the truck. Go sit there and enjoy the morning. See if you don't enjoy it more. So, try it. See what works. I'm always all ears. I'm full of it. You can tell me I'm full of it. But that's what I believe. So, this morning's edition was also brought to us by Shaw's Bend Social Club, country club for folks who don't have a country club. Now, go out, enjoy the weekend, enjoy the day, have fun, be safe, be careful, and y'all just remember pretty much any day is sure a good day to be out in the woods.